Not this unknown blaxploitation era movie setting a precedent for having the first black transgender person to appear in a film ever. I didn't know that. Did you guys know about this movie? I didn't. I can't stay. Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Tyra here with another struggle review, here to discuss Together Brothers. Now this movie is from 1974 and it stars Ahmad Nurradin. Now before we get into one brother, but low-key four brothers in a neighborhood trying to make a difference, I need you guys to drop down and subscribe to my channel and like this video. I'm going to give you guys a moment to do that, then we're going to come back and discuss. I really love going back and getting into the blaxploitation era. It's so many films in there that we just haven't gotten an opportunity to see because it didn't have, a central focus of pimps, prostitution, and drugs. Other stuff was going on.
Go back.
Now that you guys have hopefully subscribed to see more of me, let's get into this film. But before we jump into the movie, I have to give a shout out to the person who paid for and requested it. So if you happen to wake up tomorrow morning and feel the need to protect your own damn neighborhood, it's not because of me, it's because of this person right here. Thank you so much for supporting me and paying for this content. Now, getting into this movie, it was directed by William Graham, who also directed movies like Honky, Where the Lilies Bloom, and Return to the Blue Lagoon. Now, this movie is directed well, but it's not some outstanding cinematic masterpiece. The main thing that kept me here was the music in this film that was all done by Barry White. It was so good, extremely vibrant, really funky. I love that we get a little prelude to the sample for "Come on, ride that train and to ride it, choo choo." We get to know where that sample came from. It really keeps you going with this film, as well as the cast here of young guys that are mostly just unknowns, but are given their all here as characters to get you invested in this movie, especially our lead. I had never heard of this film, seen this film, so to see that it was set in Galveston, of course you guys know that I am from Texas, it was everything to see a little bit of Galveston in 1974. All the clothes, afros, beauty. In a movie from the 70s, the aesthetic is always going to be fire. That's when I personally feel like we were at our most beautiful. Now this movie definitely sticks out and should be seen more in comparison to the other movies that were released in the blaxploitation era. Your Dolomites, Superfly, Foxy Brown, Shaft, Across 110th Street. Though we love and enjoy most of these films, a lot of them involve the same themes: pimps, prostitution, drugs, karate, excessive nudity, gunfire, a ragtag team of detectives trying to solve a case, your single busty sexy female trying to solve a case, or the buff black man with the gun who came here to kick ass is on the case. And in most of these cases, we were sticking it to the man, you know what I'm saying? And then you have the other side of blaxploitation, where we take a familiar film, something that was popular. They did this a whole lot with the horror genre, a film that was highly successful elsewhere, probably had an all-white cast. We take this and make the black version of that film, replace the white cast with a black one, and put them in a black neighborhood. And we get movies like The Black Godfather, Blackula, Blackenstein, Black Shampoo, and Abby. These are the movies most often remembered and celebrated when you think about the blaxploitation era. And then you have the other side of things with movies like The Education of Sonny Carson, which this movie really reminded me of a little bit. So if you haven't seen my review for that, go and check that out. You also have movies like Claudine and The Spook Who Sat at the Door. That offered up something different, but isn't mentioned as much in the conversation. I feel like this movie very much so falls into that category. And unlike a lot of the movies that I just listed that is always led by an older, woman or a man, an adult, this is one of the few films that have 4 young boys coming to the rescue for their own. There's no Coffee, no Pam Grier, which we love, no Fred the Hammer Williamson, nobody, toting a gun. These are boys making a difference. And then you add the cherry on top with there being the very first portrayal of a transgender black person in a movie ever. Watch the movie. Now we meet one police officer trying to make a difference all on his own by the name of Mr. Cool, patrolling the Galveston streets in a neighborhood that no other cop dares to go to, believing that everybody there is a lost cause. However, Mr. Cool, the one-man army himself, tries to regulate the neighborhood on a daily, all while removing the undesirable elements. He's respected by most, everyone knows who he is, and that even goes for Fat Albert in the Cosby Kids, who really consist of leader HJ, Tommy, AP, Mama, and Monk. They did give off Fat Albert to me because we have this young black clique of boys who look to be between the ages of maybe 13 and 16, who stick together like glue in this makeshift clubhouse created by them, where they seem to spend most of their time, as well as them solely only having one another to depend on. But unlike a bushmouth situation, this Brothers United gang, some of us steal, some of us drink, don't respect authority, and are headed down a path that only leads to death, drugs, and jail as far as Officer Cool is concerned. The only one who bothers to listen or consider the guidance that Mr. Cool is trying to offer is the leader, HJ. Now, we don't get into a whole lot of backstory about any of the boys at all. We really solely focus on HJ as the lead character as well as his younger brother. But what's seen about their circumstances really doesn't need to be explained. The fact that HJ's younger brother, who is only 5, Tommy, is out and about on the streets alone late at night, left free to walk and roam, or the fact that we have a negative Uncle Daddy, who isn't our daddy, but lives with us, seems to have one route of discipline in getting the boys to listen to him, and that's via yelling and a belt. In the way that young 5-year-old Tommy clings to his older brother, there is a strong sense of them raising themselves, and HJ being more of a father figure than an older brother to him. Now, while roaming these streets alone, as this 5-year-old does on the regular from what we can see whenever he decides to sneak out of the house, he just so happens to witness the Honorable Mr. Cool being gunned down by a mass shooter. Though we can clearly see that it is a black man who shot him, we never actually get to see the face for some time, hence we begin a mystery. This movie is very much so a whodunit. Who would want to shoot Mr. Cool? Even the few people who didn't like him, they had respect for him. Who would want to shoot the one cop in the neighborhood who, in spite of everything else and what everyone seems to think about us, was for us in protecting the community? Who would want to harm an officer like that? Better yet, who would want to do something to where it was not just enough to shoot him and take his life, but we also needed to strip him down in public to his underwear and try to embarrass him? Who has that vendetta? Better yet, who would want to shoot an innocent 5-year-old boy for witnessing the crime, but we just so happen to run out of bullets? Which not only leaves little Tommy shaken to his core, but he also becomes mute and unable to speak. But we also need to figure out who, what, where, and why before he has an opportunity to kill little Tommy. Now, via the camera work, this movie is also a product of its time, but I don't really mind it, even though it came off a little off-putting and a little comical at times. The camera work and the writing of our set killer is shown to be a bit different than your average man in the way that he approaches into a scene. You know, the walking, the placement of the feet, the hands, the body language shows us that there's a different type of sway to our killer, who eventually becomes known as transgender. Moving forward, HJ is on a mission to not only watch out and protect his brother, also while getting him to hopefully speak again, but we also have him on a mission to figure out who did this to Mr. Cool. Beacon of positivity, the only person who saw the leadership potential in HJ to be more than what he currently is. HJ is very mature, he's smart, he's considerate, and wise beyond his years as just a teenager, especially amongst his current gang and friends group with members like AP. AP needed a movie all his own. Like, AP was a whole character, sometimes not in the best way, but very, very entertaining individual and young actor. And then this is the time of most young boys between a certain age all being on smack. You have multiple situations of every time something happens involving the little 5-year-old all the way up to somebody who's HJ age, everybody's just trying to ensure you're not on them drugs or you're not on smack, because currently everybody is on something. Even the likes of an entertaining AP. Say, man, the man ain't finding out nothing. Yeah, sucker, I want to see how funny you look hopping around on one boot anyway. Like, absolutely funny. But you also see a character like AP who could have it all going for him, but he also drinks the entirety of this movie, any emotions he may feel due to his neighborhood and his circumstances. AP constantly needs a drink. Resist authority, is constantly talking back, whereas you have AJ, he is so wise and so brave, and you see his bravery in the way that he is not only chasing what happened to Mr. Cool, but also in the way that he approaches Mr. Cool's widow at his funeral, stating that he always cared for Mr. Cool and that somebody needs to answer for what happened to him, especially when everybody that is surrounding them are constantly blaming them for what happened to Mr. Cool. He was silly if he wasn't down here trying to stick up for the likes of you people who didn't even deserve it. He wouldn't be in this predicament anyway. Now, while we have the police, who are most often racist here, patrolling the streets trying to figure out what happened to Mr. Cool but coming up short, we also have someone else here, maybe in place of a Mr. Cool, not only trying to assist Tommy, but also trying to assist HJ. I thought we were going to see him again, but we didn't. Glenn Turman, who's always somewhere in the film, especially back then, he makes pretty much a cameo here as a counselor who informs HJ that if you want your brother to talk, he probably needs a little bit more love and attention than he's getting. You know, of course, we see that there are expectations of HJ to do this, but not Tommy's mother or father. There's just so much put on his shoulders. Though brief, it was nice to see another upstanding black man in this community with the lack of Mr. Cool, even if we only got to see Glenn once. It's also our first glimpse of HJ taking things into his own hands. It's on me to protect my brother. He is trying to make sure he knows where he is at all time, especially with this young boy constantly roaming the Galveston streets alone. Like, he was just frolicking. I was like, where's anybody? There's nobody here that's going to protect me or my brother. In doing that, we decide to surpass the police, who just seem to not really be doing their job, wanting to get into the police station, break into the police station, getting access to their files, and maybe getting an inkling into who would have had a vendetta against Mr. Cool. We require the assistance from your local Chicano gang in the neighborhood, even though we aren't the best of friends. This is bigger than the both of us. I really like this. Both, leaders of these gangs are not only young, but we also have the combination of black and brown people working together for the greater good. just really shows what we may be able to accomplish if we work together. And not only that, it was just really nice to see these young men police their own community, especially with how things are going now. It's a whole lot of watching, not doing anything, recording, never actually stepping in. Everyone basically having the mentality of, that ain't got nothing to do with me. If it's not concerning me, I really don't care. It was nice to see these two young boys go out of their way for somebody else, instead of solely relying on a police force that don't really have our best intentions at heart all the time. The brilliance of both gangs, knowing that the police always expect the worst of them. So if we pop a couple of fireworks, they are gonna come running, assuming that we're gonna be out here killing each other, shooting each other, fighting each other, when we are just creating a distraction to get to these files for Mr. Cool. It was very much so teamwork. Whereas we have, the local brother, the local maybe, dealer, head honcho in the neighborhood, who we go to let know, hey, Mr. Cool was everything. He was everything to me as well as you. Maybe one of your men did this to Mr. Cool. Can you check him? Can you help us? Of course, we see them get their ass whooped for this. How dare you have the authority to roll up in here on me and ask me to give up one of my own men, whether he was in the wrong or not. And we also have something like a local prostitute. A lot of people just solely choose to see Mr. Cool as nothing more than a pig, a cop. He's a traitor. He was never for us. Why would I want to investigate who did something to him? Matter of fact, I am happy that he is gone. It's a little scenario of, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. But it's really great to see this young gang of boys literally and physically take the law into their own hands, each taking on a foul, a suspect, investigating, questioning, being fearless. All the while, anybody could just roll up and knock their asses out at any given time via a neighborhood friend and what looks to be HJ's girlfriend. This is not safe. Why do you guys even care? This is really idiotic. Let it be and leave it alone. But you really have HJ just be really consistent with his passion for figuring out who did this to him. It matters so much. HJ doesn't desire to smoke, drink, or even have sex. We even see him, we have his girlfriend's mother be, it's pretty much a whole house. And the girlfriend is living there. And of course she is offering up, sex and affection. As a teenage boy, we see him in the movie turn that down, opt to protect his younger brother, as well as continue on with his investigation. That's just not important to me right now. I care about you. You look good, but I'm on a mission. Like, where are we gonna see that at? Ain't nobody turning down nothing right now, especially as a gentleman. It was nice. We love to see it. Then we get back into a character like AP. Girl, we'll put something in my cup. Just our little baby teenage wino in the making. What is this? Oh, this is, 69 vintage wine. This is Chardonnay Blue. Yeah, girl, what is this? What I had was 8 hours old and it said something. Put something in my cup. Where it feels like the game is just completely and repeatedly coming up short, we finally catch a break with our suspect, Billy Most. Now, even before getting to Billy Most, we have an appearance from a drag queen here. I was like, come through, movie. Just absolutely gorgeous, just beautiful. I was like, all right. Gorgeous. We have her presented here to have the most lavish apartment. The makeup was beautiful. The clothes were flawless. And though the portrayal here isn't at all perfect, I thought it was actually progressive in the way that we chose to present this character as well as the character of Billy Most. I feel like a different layer and dynamic is added to the movie the moment that you meet the likes of Billy Most and Maria. When you get into Maria, who seems really smart and thoughtful in a way that they would never think to protect the likes of a Billy Most, and why would she do it? Why would she lie about not knowing who he is, where he is, and also all while knowing, in fact, that he did kill Mr. Cool. There is this sense of desperation and wanting to be loved, wanting to tolerate the likes of Billy Most and think the best of him, even though we know that this is a murderer. I love you. I care for you. There's no need for you to be this way. Of course, this leads to Maria's demise at the hands of Billy Most, but just their willingness to not only protect Billy Most, but want their affection, want their love. as well as pushing aside the mental illness that is clearly going on here with this character. Maybe I can be the change that saves Billy. Billy is tortured, mentally unstable, clinging to things like baby dolls in place of a real baby. We find out that Billy's mental state and unstableness really declined after the likes of Mr. Cool took a baby away from him. Billy, who feels like he's never been cared for, never really been accepted, and never really been loved. This baby didn't care to know the difference, didn't point fingers, laugh, or judge me for who I want to be. And how dare you try to take the baby from me out of my care in hopes of getting it back to a mother who is a prostitute, who doesn't care for or nurture this baby the way that I do. But in even thinking about a character like Mr. Cool, what he means in the community, and him being this upstanding individual of positivity, to think that he not only took this baby away because it was the legal thing to do, but we also decided to strip Billy down to nothing, have him out bare and naked, and embarrass him in the community to inform him that not only is this not your baby, but you aren't even a woman. What are you doing? The same care and nurture that is afforded to the rest of the community via Cool, a conversation, talking, helping, giving a second chance, getting into a character like Billy who really needed some mental help. He is just merely stripped down and embarrassed and reminded of who he and what he really is, which explains why we not only shot and killed Mr. Cool, but we also stripped him down to embarrass him within the community in that same way. I love when we have Billy say, why did Cool have to take my clothes off? Why did he have to shame my ass? What am I, some kind of beast? Who am I that I didn't afford the same type of courtesy that he gives all the other criminals on the street? Now, though some could look at a character like Billy and say that this is not at all progressive, this is representation of a evil, transgender, confused killer, it's, an antagonist, this is a confused trans person who's having a psychological breakdown. I didn't only see that, even though a lot of that is here, I also saw a dimensional character. First of all, the actor here portraying Billy was acting his ass off and selling it every single time he was on screen. The acting with Billy was everything. Like, I don't know where that man at, but bless you, he was doing a really, really good job with this character. You really, even though Billy is a whole murderer in the movie and you sympathize with him as a character, there is a lot of heart and passion in this performance. And not only that, we gave Billy a purpose. A lot of the times in a movie, especially an older one like this with a gay or maybe trans character, we are just, crazy, demented, and killing just because the fun of it. We're gay, we're trans, and this is just what we do. It's embedded in us. Where here we gave him, a purpose, being constantly picked on within the neighborhood, never, accepted for who he was, being the catalyst for the mental breakdown, as well as, the whole situation with Mr. Cool, humiliating him in public. Like, I felt like that was a lot, when a lot of the times I've seen like, oh, I am just trans and I'm crazy because I am trans. But in the end, we do have Billy ultimately lose it once he finds out that the boys are not only on his trail, but I need to maybe kill them as well as this 5-year-old. Billy just ultimately wants a baby, any baby. And anyone who stands in the way of that needs to ultimately die. And boy, do they die. Like, the moment we killed the little young girlfriend, I was like, oh! I was not expecting us to, get that heavy in the end. Once we see, the death of our drag queen Maria, as well as, the really young girlfriend who was there to keep an eye on Tommy, it's really like, well, damn. Somebody get Billy's ass now. The suspense at that moment just gets really, really high. Billy has kind of been unstoppable in his pursuit to kill someone so far. So the fact that he is on the ass of this 5-year-old boy, you just want someone to save him. Of course, you have HJ, the older brother in the crew, not only on his trail, but also at this heightened state of emotion, realizing the repercussions of what has happened, all in their pursuit of Billy Most. You know, people have lost their lives, but the little boy don't get got. The little adorable boy with the big eyes running for his life does not get got. We end up in a standoff of Billy being conflicted on whether or not he wants to kill the little boy once he actually captures him. Of course, we could kill our, drag queen friend. We could kill an older teenage girl, but this 5-year-old is just so angelic and innocent, and also holds some of that placement of what a baby did for him. Very, very conflicted. We really don't know what's going to happen, but we have HJ, who is just absolutely broken at this point with everything that is happening in the pursuit of Billy, wanting to maybe go ahead and shoot Billy. Not only because you have my baby brother and I feel like you deserve it, I need to save him, but you also killed my girlfriend, Mr. Cool, as well as Maria. You need to be stopped. At that moment, we have HJ look beyond who, this killer is, who may look crazed, and we kind of see some of the humanity that is in Billy to let him know that this is just a whole lot more than him wanting to kill people, and this need and this urgency to obtain a baby. He's, yelling about a baby. It just looks like such a broken individual. And you kind of see HJ afford Billy this courtesy that Mr. Cool didn't give him. Like, oh God. He lets Tommy go, and of course everybody is kind of happy in the end that Tommy is okay. And the police finally arrive at the end of the damn movie, like they always do when it's too late and everybody's dead, but they're there. But we just kind of end up hoping that Billy gets the help that he needs, as well as being thankful that HJ didn't take that plunge and decide to take Billy's life. I did not expect this from a blaxploitation movie. I did not go in expecting all of this dimension, different layers, characters, suspense, mystery. It was a whole thing. It was a whole vibe. The link for this movie will be below. It is available on YouTube. Please go and watch it if you care to. Well, you guys, that was my review for Together Brothers. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you've heard of, seen this movie at all. I was pleasantly surprised, by the subject matter and the layers that we got to go through within this film. I really look forward to hearing what you guys have to say, reading those comments. Please hit that like button because it helps me out a whole lot. I see you guys next time for my next review. Bye.
Commissioner!